killing them.
Wow, that movie looks really scary. Anyway, this video is from David Roberts at Roberts Business Services, and we're going to be talking about QuickBooks Online and bank rules. QuickBooks Online, as does QuickBooks Desktop, allows you to link your bank account for your business to your company file. Then you can go into the QuickBooks file and you can download those transactions into your QuickBooks. But in order to do that accurately, you need to create bank rules. Now, if you don't actually go in and create those rules yourself, QuickBooks Online will make them for you. What's an example? You go to Walmart to buy office supplies. So it creates kind of a rule that every time it sees Walmart on there, it's going to assign it to office supplies. You go to McDonald's for lunch, and that's meals and entertainment. So it's going to, every time you go to McDonald's, label it as meals and entertainment. The idea of this is to make it easy for you in working with your QuickBooks company file. Unfortunately, what happens is when you first start assigning those transactions to an account, many times in working with the QuickBooks Online clients that I have, I've found that they've assigned them to incorrect categories. So when you assign them to an incorrect category, every time that transaction comes up again for that particular vendor, whether it be McDonald's or Walmart or someone else, it's going to assign that to the wrong account. So you need to make sure when you're creating bank rules that you're actually doing it accurately, and that's what we're going to look at here. What you see here is a picture of one of my client's bank feeds. All of the information to identify that client has been taken out, but I needed an actual live bank feed to be able to show you what one looks like. This is what I refer to as the QuickBooks Shoebox of where all of the bank transactions are put before it's put into your company file. Some people don't understand that it doesn't automatically go into the company file. It puts it here in this shoebox for you to be able to identify the correct account it's supposed to go into and make sure that you're putting it where you need to put it. The first transaction that you see up there, you can see that its category is transferred to uncategorized asset, and then it gives the amount, and then it gives you the option in blue of transferring it, or if you click on it, a menu drops down and allows you to assign the correct account to that. A lot of times when there's a transaction that QuickBooks Online doesn't know what to do with, it puts either expensed out of an uncategorized expense account or transferred into or out of an uncategorized asset account. So what you've got to do is you've got to remember what that transaction was and assign it to the right account, because every time it runs into this particular vendor, restaurant, whatever it is, it's going to put it somewhere wrong. So you've got to make sure that you assign that to the correct account. You see some of the received payments there. You see the little blue word that says match. There is an invoice in there for that, for a customer that matches that amount. If you don't click on the match and you just enter in a deposit, you're going to end up with duplicate transactions in your QuickBooks Online, and it is going to be a nightmare to try and get rid of them. That nightmare becomes especially heinous if you have reconciled your bank account transactions and you go back and there's a bunch of these transactions in the shoebox that you haven't accounted for, because when you enter in a customer invoice, then receive the payment from the customer, and QuickBooks Online has matched a deposit to that invoice, that's the entire transaction. If you then manually go in and enter a deposit, you're going to have a bunch of invoices that look like they've been paid, but that the money is still in what's called the undeposited funds in your QuickBooks account. It's going to throw off your tax return. It's going to throw off your reports. And it's difficult to correct because you've actually got to go back and change those transactions and re-reconcile that bank account. You may also notice on this column right here, some of the categories are in green, and that means that QuickBooks Online recognizes those transactions as belonging to this particular account. If they're in black, it doesn't recognize it. It may or may not be a cost of goods sold account. It really depends. So you've got to look at it and you've got to make that designation. If you don't assign something correctly the first time, there are ways to change the transactions without having to delete anything or anything of that nature. If you need any help, just send me an email at david@robertsbusinessservices.com and I'll do what I can to help you out. Now, you see add and you see match. We've already explained match. It's the same for deposits as it is for expenses. Like for instance, a bill. You can match an amount on a bill that you've created in QuickBooks to a check that you have written. If you write the check without clicking on pay the bills after you've created the bill, then it leaves you with a similar problem on the other side of the balance sheet. That means that you have to do a lot of correcting. You've really got to follow the flow of the chart from enter bill to pay bill to the end of that, and from create invoice to receive payment to make deposits, and that way everything is complete. The nightmares come in trying to fix these errors, but if the problem is taken care of at the beginning, there should not be a problem at all with future transactions in that with that vendor or with that category. And another nightmare with QuickBooks Online and bank feeds, and well, QuickBooks Online in general, QuickBooks Online, the look of it changes on a regular basis. So I started this video before tax season started. It is now after tax season, and the look that you see on your bank feeds is going to look completely different than this, but the idea is the same. Remember when I talked about the drop-down menu underneath a transaction? This is a picture of what that menu looks like. Now, one of the other nightmares about QuickBooks Online is that the layout of it and the look of it changes on a regular basis. For example, when I started this video, it was the beginning of tax season. Now it's the end of tax season. So when you open up a menu now, it's going to look different than what you see here. The idea is going to be the same. The options are going to be the same, but it's going to look different. And what it's asking you here is, if you're not sure what this expense is for, or the QuickBooks Online is not sure what this expense is for, you have a few choices here. Here you can see that Hicks hardware transactions are designated as equipment rental. Now, what are the other options that you have? You click here on this button and it'll allow you to change the expense account that's coming from. If, for instance, you have an invoice or you've created a bill for Hicks hardware and you have a match to that, you can click on Find Match and it'll find any transaction with that amount that may have been entered incorrectly. One of the other mistakes people make when dealing with QuickBooks Online is that they will sometimes duplicate a transaction by choosing the account here and putting bank account. It's not bank account. This is coming out of the bank account or it's going into the bank account. So what other designation can you give it? If it's income, put it in the income account. If it's an expense, put it in the expense account. Make sure it's in the right one. When you click on save, then anything from Hicks Hardware or from whatever vendor is in that area is going to be memorized, so that the next time it comes up, it's going to automatically go into equipment rental. And that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, again, my email is david@robertsbusinessservices.com. Give me a shout and I'll do what I can to help. Thanks.